Hi everyone. I recently finished some books that I found really nice to read during this whole time with everything going on in the world with COVID-19 and everybody being extra stressed and news constantly coming out. Just all this new information that we're constantly getting bombarded with, and it's just a weird, stressful time. And some people have told me that they've had a hard time reading when they usually read quite a lot. And I had similar issues, at least in the beginning when this first started really ramping up. It was actually around my birthday when things started rapidly shutting down, was the week of my birthday. And I had plans to go out and probably just go out to eat. I told my husband a couple weeks prior to my birthday that I really just thought I would like to go eat at one of my favorite restaurants and possibly go to a used bookstore or a new bookstore and just enjoy the day out on the town. That did not happen because things shut down. And then the next week was my husband's birthday. I had made plans to take him out and surprise him on the day of his birthday and just tell him to get ready and take him out to one of his favorite food places and to a movie, because he's a simple guy. He loves food and he loves movies. He loves when we watch movies together and shows. So my plan was to treat him to something special like that. And we haven't been able to go out alone, especially alone, on a date on our birthdays since we started having children, basically like over 11 years ago. So I had planned to do that. His birthday was a week after mine. It didn't work out that way, unfortunately. So it was just weird and sad. And I'm not complaining about us as adults missing out on special birthday things. We can deal with it. It's fine. My second daughter, her birthday is actually coming up this week, and I do feel pretty bummed for her because she had requested months ago that we go to Dollywood, which, if you aren't familiar, is the amusement park named and based after Dolly Parton, the famous country music singer. And if you don't know who she is, then I don't know what to tell you. But she's pretty much the patron saint of Tennessee, or at least East Tennessee, where I'm from. And she had requested that we go to the amusement park Dollywood that's named after Dolly Parton. And we told her that we would go. We would make plans for it. Spring's a great time to go. It's not too hot for amusement park fun. And obviously we can't go. That has been shut down for a month now, and she can't have any friends over because of social distancing. And we already live, a few hours from family, not that they could come over anyways. And suffice it to say, I'm sad for her as well for her birthday. All that being said, I just realized I went on a several-minute rant, just basically letting out some of my feelings around this time. But there is a point to this video. And recently, since having the trouble concentrating on reading, I did have some trouble initially. I was more reading constantly the news. I got back on social media and just kept reading people's personal stories and experiences and everyone's thoughts that were coming in about all the stuff going on in the world. And I had some trouble initially, and I did end up finding some books that kind of pulled me out of a short reading slump. And I wanted to share those with you today. So I'm going to shut up now, except just to tell you about the books that I had intended to tell you about from the beginning of this video. I'm sorry for rambling. I just needed to talk. I went to the grocery store today, and I don't think I need to say any more than that, except I went to the grocery store. Okay, so these books that I want to tell you about, I think would be a good distraction, possibly pull you out of a funky reading slump that's due to maybe anxiety and fear, and just distract you from what's going on and pull you in and make you think about other things like murder. So one of the first books that I read coming out of my slump, and I knew I needed some good fiction for this because nonfiction I knew it wasn't going to do the trick for me. So this is one that's been sitting in my TBR for a while. It's been sitting in my room, and I finally picked it up, and it was Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. And this book was, first of all, it's huge. It was over 500 pages, but the most exciting thing about it being so long is nothing in here for over 500 pages felt excessive. I don't think there was any way to make the story shorter without cutting critical corners. So I'm glad, I was so grateful that it was so long and yet captivating from beginning to end for me. So this book follows a family of girls, one of which went missing over 20 years ago, and her remaining sisters followed very different life paths. One followed a more troubled life path, and one married a millionaire, or I don't think he was a billionaire. Yeah, a millionaire, and lives this high society, high life until one day her millionaire husband gets murdered. And she ends up linking back with her sister because they had been estranged pretty much since their oldest sister is the one that had gone missing years and years before, and they never found out what had happened to her. But they end up linking back up, and wow, reveal after reveal in here of just a mixed plot of craziness. Secrets start coming out very rapidly once one of the sisters, her husband, is murdered, and she starts finding out all these secrets are coming to light, and she ends up linking back with her sister who she was estranged from, and they basically start this whole journey of discovery and digging in the shadows to unearth horrible secrets. So I'd call this book pretty much like a fiction crime thriller that keeps you pretty much, on the edge of your seat from beginning to end, which is amazing for it being such a thick novel. I loved it. I think I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. Now, the next one is one I very recently finished, and I read it in such a short amount of time, and that was The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina. And this book was much shorter. I think it was just 300 pages, but it read so quickly. And I recommend this one because you can read it so quickly. You can get to the conclusion much faster. And it's also so fast-paced as well. Everything, you're getting all sorts of new information in every new chapter. There's no lull. There's no boring while you're world building. Not that world building is always boring, but sometimes there's lulls between chapters, and that just didn't happen here. I loved how fast-paced it was. I loved how easily and quickly it was finished from beginning to end. Again, just like Pretty Girls, I was captivated. There were no lulls in the story, no boring parts for me. But this is about a couple who go out to a party one night. They're right next door. And when they get back, their infant daughter is gone. And that is enough, I think, to build a story off of, is to have a missing child. But maybe, again, I just get stunned so easily, which is probably why I enjoy these so much. But the plot twists in here were just something else for me. I hadn't quite experienced before plot twists that, I don't know. I'm not really good at predicting them anyways, but I really couldn't have predicted some of the plot twists in here. Maybe others can, but I just really appreciated them. Another edge of the seat thriller that really distracted me for the 2 days that I spent reading it because I could barely put it down. Now, the next one I'm going to show you, I actually am currently reading as an ebook. I'm not done with it, but I am 70% done. And I wanted to go ahead and share it because I am enjoying it so much. I can't see myself hating it or anything in the next little bit until I finish it. But that is One Good Earl Deserves a Lover by Sarah MacLean. I think that's Sarah MacLean. MacLean. This one is a little out of my comfort zone. This is not a book that I usually pick up. But yesterday, I was laying around, not doing much, and pondering about how I think I would like to read a romance set in England, if possible, or the UK somewhere, and make it Edwardian or Victorian or something, please. I don't think that the time period, it's not Edwardian, and I'm not sure if it's considered Victorian. I'm not good with my British time periods, but I'm remembering correctly, this book is set somewhere between 1812 and 1820 something. So that time period. So all that being said, I wanted something that wasn't too cheesy. I've read romance that's just sex scene after sex scene, and I really wanted some story to this and some romance and just something intriguing with some meat to it. And I think this really hit the nail on the head. I don't really like the cover, and that was initially what had turned me off of it. But I went ahead and went for it because I looked up a list of books, and this one had pretty high reviews. But this is about a woman who is part of high society, and she's one of 4 sisters in her family, but she is considered odd. She is almost too smart for her own good. She wears spectacles. I love that they call them spectacles in the book. And she has an interest in scientific things that are not normal for the time period and the place that she's growing up. She's really interested in botany and anatomy, and she wants to know the mechanics of everything. She wants to understand the world around her. And she is engaged to be married. And one thing that is bothering her is she doesn't know about the mechanics behind the marriage bed. And she is desperately curious to know everything that would go on. She just wants to know. She's read anatomy books. She's watched animals doing it. But it's not enough for her scientific mind. And let me just take a break here and say that I love her character. I love that she is this highly intelligent woman who is different from everyone around her for her time period. And she's not what I would consider an easily swoonable character. So I appreciate that. There's some work that goes into this story. So I like that part. But she decides she wants to seek out a man who is experienced wooing ladies. And she wants to not do anything with them, but she wants to seek out the knowledge, and she can't figure out in the society that she lives in who she can go to who will tell her everything that she desires to know scientifically about what happens after you're married. And I just love the way the story is set up. I can't see myself reading a lot of romance after this, or starting to read a lot of romance, because it's just not, this kind of romance is not something that I usually reach for, but I just needed distraction. I needed something light, but intriguing enough where it just wasn't making me laugh. It wasn't too cliched. So I think if you want distraction and you're wanting something romantic and a little juicy, but with a good storyline and believable to an extent, I think this is a good choice. Again, I'm not an expert on romance at all, but I am pretty happy with my selection, and I'll let you guys know at the end of the month what I ended up thinking of it. Now, the last book that I want to recommend to you that I think would make a great distraction and a great read right now, and it's one that hasn't been able to leave my mind ever since we started getting more news in the United States about this virus becoming a serious issue. One book kept popping into my mind over and over, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. It was one I read several years ago, and I'm thinking I actually want to read it again because of what's going on. One thing I will say, though, is if you are anxiety prone and you want to avoid more anxiety, maybe you should not read this book. But I wanted to recommend it because if you like getting swept away in your anxiety and just embracing it and just getting full-fledged into everything that's going on, then I would recommend Dry by Neil Shusterman and Jared Shusterman. This is a YA dystopian that takes place in the United States and is about a loss of our most precious resource, or one of our most precious resources for life, and that is water. So this follows some teenagers who are going through basically a water crisis in the western part of the United States, where suddenly water is gone. They knew there had been shortages, but I think the news, if I'm remembering correctly, did not really let them know how serious the crisis was until one day they turn on their taps and literally no water comes out. And this book for me reminds me so much of the current state of the world, except for worse, just because this book, I think Neil Shusterman did such a good job making you see how quickly society breaks down when shit hits the fan, basically. And shit hits the fan really fast and Dry. It's quite a roller coaster, very anxiety-inducing for me. Again, I read it a couple years ago, and I just felt a little sick thinking about how quickly society disintegrates and how quickly people turn on each other whenever they get desperate. And again, I think it's just a book that's really fitting for the times. And it's not one that I would recommend if you're wanting to just not think about it at all, or get totally lost in a book that has nothing to do with a global or countrywide crisis where you're seeing this breakdown in society. But if you just want to like distract yourself, but also awash yourself in just the whole anxiety of the times that are going on, then I would recommend Dry, because it's just one I can't get out of my head, and it just reminds me so much of everything happening. Those are my 4 book recommendations for distracting yourself in the time of quarantine. Let me know if you choose to read any of them. Again, most of these are pretty recent except for Dry, and I love them so much, so I wanted to go ahead and share them with you in case you're desperate for a read or something that could help pull you out of maybe a state of mind that you're not comfortable being in anymore. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I'll see you all again really soon.